Have you ever felt that inner conflict? That feeling of being pulled in a dozen different directions all at once? Well, that's exactly what we're diving into today. We're going to explore how the Quran is understood not just as a sacred text, but as a kind of divine prescription, a really detailed guide for healing the soul and finding a true sense of wholeness.
Okay, so here's our roadmap. First, we're going to look at the diagnosis. What's the core issue with the human condition? Then we'll get into the prescription itself, this idea of unity, and the daily practices for getting through life's challenges. From there, we'll zoom out to see why a just community is so important for personal healing. And finally, we'll look at the message and the messenger who brought it all to us.
So, where do we even begin a journey of healing like this? Well, like any good treatment, it starts with a diagnosis. We have to first understand the fundamental problem, this tension that pretty much all of us feel inside.
And this is a question that pretty much everyone can relate to, right? We're all searching for some kind of inner peace, for meaning, but so often we just feel scattered, pulled apart. So what's the root cause of that feeling?
So the sources we're looking at describe humanity as being caught in this incredible paradox. On the one hand, we're told we have these divine attributes, this capacity for true greatness. But, and this is a big but, we're also inherently flawed. We're vulnerable to what are called false attachments, basically tying our happiness and our security to things that don't last, which is what ultimately makes us feel fragmented and broken.
Okay, so if the diagnosis is a fragmented self, what's the prescription? Well, the Quran offers a foundational cure, one that's designed to heal that exact inner conflict we just talked about.
The heart of this cure is a concept called Tawheed. And look, this is way more than just some abstract theological term. It's the principle of divine unity. It frames God as the single, sole, absolute reality. And everything else, everything, depends completely on Him. You see this principle captured perfectly in the Shahada, the declaration of faith. La ilaha illallah, which translates to, there is no God but God. It's a simple phrase, but it's meant to completely reorient your entire reality around one single, unchanging truth.
And this is where it gets really fascinating, because this big theological idea has the direct psychological payoff. The idea is that by truly internalizing Tawheed, you start to build a foundation for a unified self. All those internal conflicts, that sense of fragmentation that comes from those false attachments, they start to just dissolve. It's a direct remedy for the diagnosis we started with.
So, we have the core principle, the foundational cure, but what's the day-to-day regimen? How does this whole prescription actually work when you're dealing with the ups and downs of real life?
Well, according to the Quran, the challenges you face in life are anything but random. They're seen as purposeful tests. They're not there to break you. They're there to show you what's really inside you and, in the end, to purify your heart.
And the key to navigating these trials? It's a concept called sabr, or patience. The promise isn't that you'll have a life free from hardship. No, the promise is that when you practice patient endurance, you find this incredible closeness to the divine.
Another key part of this daily practice is ihsan. It's about excellence, about doing things beautifully. Think of it as living with this profound sense of awareness, acting as if you can see God, because even if you can't, He sees you. This mindset is meant to elevate everything you do, turning even the most mundane tasks into something meaningful.
What's really cool is that this idea of a spiritual journey is actually baked right into the very structure of the Quran. It tends to start with verses revealed later, which deal with practical, worldly matters. But it concludes with the earliest, most poetic, spiritual revelations. This is said to mirror our own journey. You start by figuring out how to navigate daily life, and through that process, you ascend to a higher spiritual plane.
But here's a twist. This whole prescription for feeling, it isn't just about you as an individual. The sources are really clear on this. A healthy soul needs a healthy society. You really can't have one without the other.
The foundation for this kind of healthy society is divine law, and the source material draws a really sharp contrast here. It suggests that human laws can easily be shaped by the egos and biases of a particular group, right? But divine law is based on what's best for all of humanity, these universal interests that benefit everyone.
And again, this isn't just some abstract theory. This framework for justice boils down to very specific, actionable responsibilities. Things like upholding the rights of your family, taking care of the most vulnerable people in society, and even making sure travelers are safe. These are the pillars that create a community where people can actually flourish spiritually.
All right, so that brings us to the final piece of the puzzle, the vehicle that delivered this entire prescription for healing in the first place. We're talking about the message itself and, of course, the messenger who brought it.
Now, Prophet Muhammad's early life was marked by incredible loss. But what's so telling is that long before he received any revelation, he had already earned a reputation for his rock-solid character. He was known throughout his community as Al-Amin, the trustworthy. That integrity is seen as the crucial foundation for the incredible mission that was about to begin.
But here's a point that is absolutely central to this whole idea. Right after the Prophet passed away, his closest friend Abu Bakr stood up and reminded everyone of this core principle. The healing, the guidance, it's all in the divine message itself. The message is always, always more important than the messenger.
And that message is considered truly unique. The sources really stress that the Quran's power is deeply intrinsically tied to the original Arabic. The sound of the words, the layers of meaning, and the roots, the very structure of the sentences, all of it is seen as part of the divine vehicle for healing, and a lot of that depth, that texture, just can't be carried over into another language.
Which brings us to one final fascinating thought. The very first word of the Quran that was revealed was not believe, or feel, or submit. It was recite, a command to read, to learn, to know. So what does it tell us? That a path for deep spiritual and psychological healing doesn't begin with an appeal to the heart, but with a command to engage the mind. Definitely something to think about.